Hey YouTube, Country Boy Prepper. I just wanted to make a quick update video to a video I made last Thursday on the 5th called Banning Bumpfire Stocks is Not the Answer, NRA. Unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you're very aware of all of the drama that's been going on lately. A lot of the big YouTube channels have been putting out some great content about what's been happening. Basically, last Thursday, October the 5th, the NRA made a statement, and I'm going to read part of that statement to you real quick. But Wayne LaPierre and Chris Cox released a joint statement, and in that statement, the part that really got a lot of people fired up was this part right here. It says, the NRA believes that devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulation. Okay, and that is no bueno. That is totally not in line with my views, and I know a lot of other people's views. A lot of people got really upset about this, and for good reason. And a lot of people are talking about, we just need to abandon the NRA and send their money elsewhere. And I don't believe that's the answer. I think we need to fix the NRA. I think that Wayne LaPierre needs to go. This is not his first mistake that he's made over the years. He's made several. And I think he needs to go and be replaced by someone more competent. But we need to fix the NRA. We don't need to get rid of the NRA. It is our strongest and largest ally to fight against anti-gun legislation, and we need the NRA. We cannot afford to be divided, and that's not the solution. So since they made this statement last week, and they made this just completely out of the blue before any legislation was even being talked about, since that happened, some legislation has been brought out by a Republican out of Florida who is a turncoat and a traitor. And the bill that they are proposing is supposedly geared towards getting rid of bumpfire stocks, and because bumpfire stocks are supposedly why this all happened and why all these people died is because of bumpfire stocks, and that's what this bill is supposed to be all about. The problem is this bill, not once does it even mention bumpfire stocks. It only says parts and devices and accessories that can increase the rate of fire of any semi-automatic firearm. Well, that is extremely vague and could mean literally almost anything. I mean, a 30-round magazine increases my rate of fire. A Geisley trigger increases my rate of fire. A pistol grip increases my rate of fire. Many, many things could be construed or interpreted to increase the rate of fire on a semi-automatic firearm. So this is a horribly, horribly written bill, very, very badly worded, obviously written by people who are completely ignorant when it comes to firearms. Well, since the NRA made their initial statement, this bill has come out, and now the NRA has come out publicly in opposition to this bill, and a lot of people are all excited and thinking, oh, the NRA has changed their position and they've retracted or they've reneged on their initial statement. Now they're doing the right thing. And yes, I'm glad they are in opposition to this bill. That's good. However, they haven't really taken back that statement. That statement is still on the NRA ILA website. I'll put a link for it in the description below. I'm looking at it right now. The statement is still on the website. Nothing has been said or issued. No statements have been issued changing that. The only reason I'm assuming the NRA is in opposition to this bill is because it's so vaguely written that it could be misconstrued to mean all sorts of bad things, not just bumpfire stocks. But even the NRA's initial statement, if you read it, it says the NRA believes that devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations. Their own statement was very vague and didn't even mention bump fire stocks. So I mean, they need to fix that. They need to fix it. They really do. But let me get to the point, okay? What I want to do is I want to read a statement, or actually an article from a website that I'll put a link for in the description below, but it's from AmmoLand Shooting Sports News, and it's by a guy named Jeff Knox, who is the director of the Firearms Coalition. And this article basically sums up how I feel on the issue and how I feel about the NRA at this point. Let me just say this up front. I'm an NRA member. I think you should be an NRA member. I'm going to continue to be an NRA member. We don't need to abandon the NRA. We need to fix the NRA. Wayne LaPierre needs to be replaced with someone far more competent. But this article right here, and I'll put a link for it in the description below, pretty much sums up my feelings on this whole issue as of today. So I'm just going to read this to you. The Executive Vice President of the NRA, Wayne LaPierre, and Chris Cox, the Executive Director of the NRA-ILA, the association's lobbying arm, issued a joint statement in response to the horrific atrocities perpetuated last week in Las Vegas. The bulk of the statement was practical, reasonable, sounding a balanced tone between concern for the victims and the determination to not let the acts of a madman be used to undercut the rights of Americans. It also showed a willingness to at least discuss whether some action related to guns might be warranted. There's nothing wrong with them being willing to talk as long as they stick to core principles and refuse to allow blame for the tragedy to be dumped on responsible gun owners. Unfortunately, LaPierre and Cox didn't stick to principles. Instead of just calling for regulatory review, they declared in the name of the NRA an opinion on what that review should conclude. And it's not an opinion that the Firearms Coalition can begin to agree with. Here's the part of what LaPierre and Cox said that we have a problem with. Quote, the NRA believes that devices designed to allow semi-automatic rifles to function like fully automatic rifles should be subject to additional regulations, end quote. By stating that NRA believes the devices, quote, should be subject to additional regulations, end quote, they are not only abandoning bump fire stocks and the trigger cranks, which is a pretty stupid move in our opinion, but they are conceding the notion that these devices and full auto firearms are too dangerous for average Americans to own. LaPierre and Cox have since doubled down on that statement, saying on Sunday talk shows that, quote, NRA supports the restrictions of the NFA and thinks that rapid-fire devices should fall under the purview of that law. So basically they're saying that bump fire stocks should be regulated the same as machine guns. This is really troubling as it abandons the critical core principle that you cannot control criminal behavior by regulating inanimate objects. You can't regulate morality. That's my quote. You can't legislate morality. That's another way of saying it. With NRA already conceding on the issue of bump fire stocks, they have surrendered any reasonable grounds for objecting to quick congressional action. And since a ban on bump fire stocks is now a given, the anti-right zealots will set their sights on additional targets like limiting magazine capacity and expanding background checks, along with yet another run at an assault weapons ban, which they might use as a bargaining chip. With NRA leaders having conceded that bump fire stocks should be regulated, and with that concession also abandoning the notion that restricting tools is never the answer to controlling crime, any argument they offer against expanding background checks or restricting magazine capacity will be pounced upon as specious and in contradiction to this stated position. After all, if it only saves one life. The values expressed in that one sentence of LaPierre and Cox's statement represent a major shift in NRA policy, and we're pretty sure that this shift was not approved by the NRA's board of directors, which is supposed to be responsible for establishing all policies for the organization. Now LaPierre has again shot a hole in his own foot, and the NRA boat he's standing in, with his misguided statement about rapid-fire devices for semi-auto rifles. The difference is that this time the contrary statement has the potential to sink the whole boat. If full auto is so dangerous that it must be tightly regulated, and devices that make it easier to make semi-autos function like fully automatic firearms are so dangerous that they must also be tightly regulated, it is a very short step to demand that all semi-auto firearms be tightly regulated, since any semi-auto can be made to function like a fully automatic firearms with a simple improvised device, or no device at all with a little practice. When anti-rights politicians and the media make that demand, what defense can LaPierre offer? We at the Firearms Coalition feel that this was a serious faux pas on the part of LaPierre and Cox, and we see only one way for the mistake to be corrected. The NRA Board of Directors must immediately issue a statement declaring the true position of the National Rifle Association, and that's the statement from LaPierre and Cox did not accurately reflect that position. Yes, I agree with that. They need to do that. They must make it clear that the NRA policy opposes any effort to restrict or regulate any firearm, ammunition, or accessory under the false premise that such regulation will prevent the illegal acts of criminals and lunatics. Political gamemanship is one thing. Abandoning core principles as part of that gamemanship is totally unacceptable. And that's the end of the article. I'll put a link for this article in the description below, but that pretty much sums up how I feel about it. We need to unite. We need to fight this legislation. We need to get behind the NRA in their fight against this legislation. But at the same time, we need to hold the NRA's feet to the fire on this issue, because as far as I'm concerned, they made a serious misstep and they haven't corrected it yet. And that's just how I feel about it. Anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all watching. Sorry this video went so long, but I wanted to make sure I shared this information. Y'all keep your ears to the ground, be active, be vocal. Let's stand together and fight this. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great day.